Hey everybody, we did a video about Neofinetia in June, and I'd like to do a follow-up video now, as it is July and our peak blooming season for the Neofinetia here at Orchids Limited. We grow all of ours outdoors in the summer. We find that the natural air, light, and rain makes a big difference in their growth, and I get a lot better flower count out here than I do in the greenhouse. Let's take a moment to go through some of the varieties we have flowering now. I'll start out with the standard Neofinetia falcata. Here we have a plant well on its way to a specimen in a 3¼ inch pot. Once in a while, even on the standard Neofinetias, you get just a bit of the color pink in the tips of the petals. I have also seen this happen often with some of the variegated types as well. As you can imagine, it smells fantastic out here with the amount of flowers in bloom. You'll catch the fragrance with the breeze. Here we have what is a mutation. It's an alternative style of flower. This variety is called Unkai, which means sea of clouds. And it has a mutated flower. The lip is kind of twisted over and hanging downwards. And the flower overall, I believe, is upside down. It's just a very unique and odd flower. There's several color varieties of Neofinetia. One of the most popular ones is the magenta type. This particular variety is Kokakuden. It's very similar to the very popular Shuteno, which I actually have right here next to it. We can take comparison side by side. This Shuteno looks a bit darker than the Kokakuden. Usually it's the other way around with these two, but the colored varieties can breed and are produced by seed, so there is variation nowadays in the color intensity of these plants. Here we have Hisui, which is one of the nicest green colored Neofinetia you can get. If the weather is cool enough, when I say cool, I mean evenings in the 60s, maybe daytime highs in the 70s. While the flowers are developing, they get even greener than this. But this is pretty average for the amount of green you should have in a Hisui. Beanleaf varieties such as Tamakongo get shorter segmented flowers often, and these flowers are also facing upwards. Here you can see this combination of new and old flowers. Depending on your weather, most Neofinetias last about 2 to 3 weeks, although larger specimens getting multiple spikes will flower at several different times, so it feels like 1 to 1½ months at times. Now we'll take a look at some darker colored varieties. The Japanese often call these colored Neofinetia, but in truth they're hybrids, which we call back crosses, and I'll explain that in a moment. But here is a really nice dark pink variety, which they call Raikoden, translates to Red Thunderlord. But back crosses will take on the appearance of the species that's most dominant, and in this case it's Neofinetia. So back crosses are made so that you can get a plant that mimics the original species, but will have some new characteristics. I'll explain how you can get to this style of back cross. This variety is called Ko-O. And the yellow ones are really unique in that they open up a light yellow and they darken as they age. And the fragrance is also very different than the regular Neofinetia. It's a different scent altogether, very, very sweet. But here we have a primary hybrid behind it. This is Ascophonetia Twinkle, which is Ascocentrum miniatum by Neofinetia falcata. Now if you were to take this plant and hybridize it with a Neofinetia species again, you have a back cross, then you have a 75% genetically modified Neofinetia. And that is how you get this kind of alternative. Only a single back cross can bring this result. Double back crosses will be even more consistent. Now we'll take a look at our specimen bench. If you grow your neos for long enough, you'll end up with this kind of result. You also have to resist the temptation to divide them. Of course, if a growth is coming out the side in an awkward pattern, it's quite normal to divide them. Before I show you some of the specimens, I noticed here we have Beni Tengu blooming. This is the darkest natural pink species of all the Neofinetia. It's really a fantastic color. There's nothing that's more pink than this. It's very closely related to this variety, which is Beni Suzume, which has a lighter pink, but a very similar flower. A little bit more compact plant and compact flowers. It also tends to smell a bit sweeter than many of the neos for some reason. Here we have a semi-specimen of Hisui. Again, one of the nicest things about Neofinetia is old and new growths can both flower every year, which is why they get more and more flowers as they age. Here we have a specimen of Ogon Maru, which is a yellow backcross hybrid variety. Just past its prime, with still a couple unopened spikes. This is one of the largest tamakongos we have at the shop. It's in the middle of shedding as well. Some of the older leaves are turning yellow. It's due for a good pruning. And even the standard Neofinetia looks quite fantastic once it's become mature. This is actually a self-pollinated plant of Miyako Habutai by self, which is a variegated type. Shows you that the variegation does not breed through. They revert back to plain green leaves. But really a nice specimen here. And here we have a very large plant of Shuteno. Shuteno is probably one of the best blooming colored varieties there is. Every year it seems to get more and more flower spikes, and each spike seems to hold often more than 5 flowers. 12 flowers is the most I've ever seen on a single inflorescence of a Neofinetia. So if you get 13, you've broken the world record that I know of for having multiple flowers on one spike. In our June video, I talked about my alternative mix for growing Neofinetia, which is a charcoal, bark, and Growstone combination mix. I received several emails asking about the Growstone product. So many as which I couldn't respond to all of them. So I'd like to respond to you in this video and talk a little bit about this Growstone product. So what is Growstone? It's expanded recycled glass. This is made in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Basically, the recycled glass rejects get sent to another factory and they heat them and puff them up to this consistency. It has about 40% more porosity than perlite. It's much stronger than perlite, so it doesn't crumble as easily, and it helps aerate the root system quite well. The reason I choose this for Neofinetia is exactly that. They love air around the roots. That's why they do well in the moss mounds. Now, just to show you a close-up of the mix, you can see the mixture of charcoal, Growstone, and Orchiata bark. And this is the medium-size Growstone. I guess it should be called medium-small. There's only 2 sizes available, a large and this medium-small size, which they call soil aerator. Then I have the medium-sized charcoal with the power size, which is also medium, Orchiata pine bark. Since it's a lot of work to buy all the materials separately and mix this yourself, I figured we would do it for you. So we now sell the hobby bag size of the Neofinetia mix. It's also good for other Vandaceous plants as well, because it's very open and airy. This is about 4.5 pound bag. There's about 8 liters of material in here. I've estimated it should repot between 20 and 30 neos between 3¼ and 4.5 inch pot size. Just so you have an idea of what that means, this is the 3¼ inch size here. It's a very standard pot size for Neofinetia. It's a mix of a third charcoal, a third Growstone, and a third Orchidweb bark. With this product, your plants should probably be okay for about 2 to 3 years. I would think they'll outgrow the pot before the mix really breaks down. When you have mixes that are open and airy, they take a lot longer to decompose.